Rack built her entire empire to protect her son and give him power. But the truth is that their relationship has never been simple. Every season has pushed them further apart, and the damage between them may already be too deep to fix. If season 5 follows the path the story has been building, the final chapter between Kanan and Rack could become the most tragic moment in the entire series. From the very beginning of Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, the relationship between Kanan and Rack looked strong on the surface. Rack was not just a mother trying to raise her son in a dangerous world. She was also a powerful leader in the streets, someone who controlled people, money, and territory. In many ways, she believed she was building a future for Kanan. Her empire, her connections, and her decisions were all meant to shape him into someone strong enough to survive the world they lived in. But the problem is that Rack's version of protection always came with control. She believed she knew what was best for Kanan, even when it meant hiding the truth from him. As the story continued, viewers began to see how dangerous that control really was. Rack did not just guide Kanan. She often pushed him into situations that changed him forever. Instead of letting him live a normal teenage life, she slowly pulled him deeper into her criminal world. At first, Kanan trusted her completely. He believed his mother was always telling him the truth and making choices that would keep him safe. But that trust started to break the moment he began discovering the secrets she kept from him. One of the biggest turning points in their relationship came when Kanan learned that Rack had lied about his father. For most of his life, Kanan believed one story about where he came from. When the truth about Detective Howard started coming out, it shook Kanan in a way that changed how he looked at his mother. Suddenly, the person he trusted most in the world was also the person who had hidden the biggest truth of his life. That moment planted the first real seed of doubt in Kanan's mind. But the lies did not stop there. Rack continued making decisions that put Kanan in dangerous positions, sometimes without him even realizing it. She believed she was preparing him for power. But from Kanan's point of view, it often felt like manipulation. Every time another secret came out, the gap between them grew wider. Their conversations became colder. The trust that once defined their bond slowly disappeared. By the later seasons, their relationship was no longer built on love alone. It was filled with tension, anger, and confusion. Kanan started to question every move Rack made and every word she said. Instead of seeing her as a protector, he began to see her as someone who controlled his life for her own reasons. And that shift is what makes the story so powerful. Because when trust between family members breaks this badly, it can lead to choices that no one ever expected in the beginning. As Raising Kanan moves closer to season 5, this broken relationship is one of the most important parts of the story. The writers have spent years building the conflict between mother and son. Every lie, every betrayal, and every moment of anger has slowly pushed them toward a point where something major has to happen. Whether that moment leads to forgiveness or tragedy is still unknown. But one thing is clear. The bond between Kanan and Rack is no longer strong enough to survive without consequences. And that is exactly why fans are starting to ask the question that once seemed impossible. If the damage between them keeps growing, could Kanan reach a point where he believes the only way to escape his mother's control is to remove her from his life forever? As the story moves forward in Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, one thing becomes very clear. Kanan is not the same boy he was in the beginning. At first, he was just a teenager trying to understand the world around him. He looked up to his mother and believed she had all the answers. But over time, the streets, the violence, and the truth about his family began to change him. Each experience slowly shaped him into someone colder, someone who thinks differently about loyalty, trust, and power. One of the most interesting parts of the series is how it slowly builds the future version of Kanan that fans already know from the original Power. In that show, Kanan is not a confused kid. He is a dangerous and ruthless man who rarely trusts anyone. The prequel series is basically telling the story of how that transformation happened. Every season pushes him closer to that future version of himself, and many fans believe Season 5 may show the final stage of that change. Kanan has already experienced many moments that forced him to grow up quickly. He has seen betrayal from people he trusted. He has watched violence become a normal part of life. He has also started making his own decisions instead of simply following Rack's orders. That shift is important because it shows that Kanan is no longer just a piece in his mother's plan. He is starting to think for himself, and sometimes his choices are very different from what Rack wants. Another big change is the way Kanan now sees the world around him. Earlier in the series, he often reacted with emotion. Anger, confusion, and frustration controlled many of his decisions. But as time passed, he started becoming more calculated. He watches people more carefully. He listens before he speaks. And when he makes a move, it usually has a purpose behind it. These are the early signs of the strategic mind that later made him one of the most feared figures in the Power universe. At the same time, the emotional damage from his relationship with Rack continues to grow, even though she is still his mother. The trust between them has almost completely disappeared. Kanan now questions her motives and wonders whether she ever truly cared about what he wanted. From his perspective, many of her actions were not about protecting him, but about keeping control over him. That belief changes how he responds to her authority. Instead of following her lead, Kanan is beginning to build his own path. He pays attention to how the business works. He studies the power struggles happening around him. He notices who is loyal and who is pretending. These lessons are shaping him into someone who understands the rules of the streets much better than before. And once someone reaches that level of understanding, they often start thinking about power in a very different way. For Kanan, power is no longer something that only belongs to Rack. He is starting to see that he could control his own future if he plays his cards right. But there is one major obstacle standing between him, and that freedom. His mother still runs the empire. As long as Rack remains in charge, Kanan will always be tied to her decisions and her mistakes. That situation creates a very dangerous emotional conflict. On one side, Rack is still the person who raised him and shaped his life. On the other side, she is also the person who lied to him and manipulated him for years. When love and anger exist at the same time, people often make choices they never imagined before. And in a world as ruthless as the one shown in Raising Kanan, those choices can sometimes turn deadly. Season 5 is expected to push this conflict even further. The power balance in the streets is changing. Enemies are getting closer, and trust between characters is becoming weaker. In that kind of environment, even family bonds can break under pressure. If Kanan continues walking down this darker path, he may eventually reach a moment where he believes he must fully separate himself from Rack in order to become the man he is destined to be. And if that moment ever arrives, it could lead to a decision that would shock the entire Power universe. Another reason fans are worried about Rack's future comes from the words of the actress who plays her, Patina Miller. Over the years, Miller has spoken many times about her role in Power Book 3, Raising Kanan. But her recent comments about the upcoming season have made viewers even more curious. Without revealing any direct spoilers, she hinted that the next chapter of the story will push the characters into very emotional territory. According to her, the new season will test relationships in ways that fans might not expect. What makes her comments interesting is the way she talks about Rack's journey. Miller has explained in interviews that Rack is a character who believes she is always making the right decisions, even when those decisions hurt the people around her. From Rack's point of view, everything she has done was meant to protect her family and keep her power strong. But the reality is that her actions have created many enemies, and some of those enemies are very close to her. Miller also mentioned that the story is reaching a point where the consequences of Rack's past choices can no longer be avoided. That statement alone made many fans start thinking about what those consequences could be. Rack has spent years building her empire, controlling people, and outsmarting her rivals. But in a world like the one shown in the Power universe, power never lasts forever. Eventually, someone challenges the throne. Many viewers believe the biggest threat to Rack may not come from outside enemies, but from inside her own family. The tension between her and Kanan has been growing for several seasons.